Hey guys, welcome back to the Friday Vlog, where we discuss activity that goes on here with the BuzWeaver channel. That includes things like current events, headlines that are in the news, pop culture, social media, technology, and items of interest that come up during the week that allow us to have a little bit of a dialogue. If this is your first time here to the channel, I'd like to welcome you guys here, along with returning visitors and, of course, the dedicated subscribers. And if you guys haven't already, I would encourage you now to click on that watermark down there in the bottom right-hand corner to subscribe, along with notifications. That way you guys will know when there's content here on the channel, as well as the Friday Vlogs. In gaming news this week, Infinity Ward released the massive 1.21 update for Call of Duty Modern Warfare. We saw rebalancing of weapons, new maps, along with new content in Warzone and Plunder. You guys can check out that video up here in the top right-hand corner. It was pretty large. It was around 29.9 gigs for us here on PC. But nonetheless, it was a rather substantive change to the game. One of the largest ones we've seen since the game has been released. But nonetheless, guys, you can check that out up there in the top right-hand corner. Last Saturday, President Trump sent out a tweet suggesting that some of the tech giants, in particular Twitter and Facebook, were being controlled by the radical left. He also mentioned Michelle Malcolm in his tweet because apparently a video that she had made or a post that she had tweeted out was deleted or temporarily removed. Now, the link itself from Michelle's tweet was removed from the president's tweet, interestingly enough. But I think all of that was reinstated after a while because, of course, all the hubbub, and of course Twitter probably just suggested that it was an AI thing, as they normally do. They typically suggested it was just a mistake and then they restored it. But of course, they typically do go after certain groups of individuals. But I think what this really centered around was the fact that Michelle was talking about a particular procedure that Bill Gates had mentioned. Of course, I can't go into the specific details because it would probably be desensitized here or removed or suspended or suppressed here on YouTube, as you guys know. But as you understand, Bill Gates had recommended a particular process and a procedure for the current pandemic and how he was working and developing ideas and concepts to treat the particular pandemic. You guys probably know what I'm saying. And Michelle Malcolm raised an objection to it, as in the V word, as in the particular word that cannot be mentioned either on YouTube because it also gets desensitized, but it is the injection process, of course, of a medication, as you can probably gather from that inference. But nonetheless, guys, we have known and we have talked about this for quite some time, that there is, of course, that contingency within social media or within the tech giants who have mentioned specifically, particularly Google in particular, that of course they wanted to work and do things to oppose the president or ensure that he is not reelected. And of course, we also know that the FTC had been looking into the tech giants for quite some time. At least we'd heard about that last year, right? When we discussed that here on the channel. But now we see that the state attorney and the Justice Department are also going to be looking into this. And it's going to be kind of tricky because these are private companies and they can implement and institute their own policies in terms of service. But if a clear bias can be demonstrated, perhaps an argument can be made that because of their actions and or leanings towards certain individuals, that there could be levels of discrimination or just being selective with their rule enforcement. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. Now, we did learn a lot of things that were going on with Google, particularly that they had removed or eliminated their diversity program, which created a great deal of anger and irritation by some of those in the tech industry, as well as, of course, the particular cancel culture and other activists online within social media. So it is interesting to see how all this is developing and how this will affect the tech giants or the platforms, and what will President Trump actually be able to do. As we get closer to the 2020 election, we're probably going to see more of this activity. In particular, we saw this happen with Tim Pool as one of his videos that he covered all the people returning back to the beaches there in New York and trying to get back into their daily routines and activities there in New York. That was actually temporarily shadow banned for him for quite some time, for a few hours anyway, because of course he was introducing that concept and idea when it would oppose, I guess, the New York restrictions and bans that they have right now on going out and their curfews and so forth going on all around over there. So nonetheless, guys, that was a very interesting story, how that all developed from President Trump's tweet. But nonetheless, I will post information about that down below this video. An individual who had a huge impact and started my journey on Christian apologetics, Ravi Zacharias, passed away on Tuesday from sarcoma, a form of cancer. He was an inspiration and he was an extraordinary human being who traveled throughout the world and spoke at some of the most leading universities and most recognized institutions throughout the world in all sorts of forums where he lectured to academics, scientists, leaders, and all sorts of individuals throughout the world on all sorts of topics, and leaders of different faiths and different belief systems. He was an extraordinary individual, and I'd like to take a moment and read an article from CNN, which I think they adapted from the AP. Ravi Zacharias, who spent his life defending Christianity through books and lectures, has died. He was 74. Zacharias had been battling sarcoma and died at his home in Atlanta on Tuesday, Zacharias International Ministries said. Now, Ravi is from India. He was born in India and as a young adult attempted to commit suicide when he was living a rather troubled life. He became a Christian while on his deathbed there, or while he was recovering from suicide. He then, as a young adult, moved to Canada where he married and had children, and then he moved here to Atlanta. He was a leading figure among Christian apologists, a branch of Christian theology that defends Christian doctrines against objections. Zacharias founded Zacharias International Ministries in 1984 and launched a global team of nearly 100 Christian scholars and authors who continue to speak, resource, train, and address the questions of millions around the world, a news release said. That was probably from the AP. Ravi was the objections and questions of others not as something to be rebuffed, or Ravi saw the objections and questions of others not as something to be rebuffed, but as a cry of the heart that had to be answered, said Michael Ramsden, president of Zacharias International Ministries. I'm a huge fan of Michael as well. He's extraordinary. People weren't logical problems waiting to be solved. They were people who needed the person of Christ. Those who knew him very well remember him first for his kindness, gentleness, and generosity of spirit. The love and kindness he had come to know in and through Jesus Christ was the same love he wanted to share with all he met. And it's extraordinary. Zacharias was an amazing individual. He is survived by his wife, Margie, daughter Sarah and Naomi, son Nathan, and 5 grandchildren. Ravi Zacharias was a huge inspiration to me. Right behind me and to the right, you may not be able to see them down here, are all the particular books on the belief systems throughout the world. I studied it on my own and tried to get a better idea of other faiths and other beliefs. And I also want to mention here too, I want to mention Professor John Lennox as well as Frank Turk. We did mention Frank Turk last week, but these amazing Christian apologists go out there into the world, speak across the entire planet in different forums and different lectures, and it's really kind of extraordinary to listen to these individuals. But I would encourage you guys to take a moment. I will post links to Ravi down there below this video if you want to watch one of his lectures, but I would encourage you just to take a moment, at least watch one of them. I may even post one of those that I took an excerpt from one of his lectures. You guys can check that out. But nonetheless, one of my mentors I learned had passed away. Very sad news, but nonetheless, I did want to take a moment and share that with you guys. All right, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for the Friday vlog for this week. I want to thank all you guys for your continued participation here on the channel, your likes, your shares, and your comments. And of course, if you are following this on DTube or BitChute, I would encourage you guys to give me a follow there as well. And of course, appearing there on the screen, that would be the channel icon to click on and subscribe if you haven't already, along with notifications. That way you guys will know when there's content here on the channel, as well as the release of the Friday vlogs. And I will see you guys right there behind the camera next week.